Let's talk about mobile learning a little bit. Now, this is one of my areas of research, so I could go on and on for hours, but let me cut to the chase in a 2 to 3 minute segment. The difference between e-learning and mobile learning is mobile learning is scaled back to fit on a portable device. Information is not lengthy in nature, and it's very to the point. It's very factual. It's very task-oriented. A platform such as Blackboard is available in a mobile format, but frankly, it does not convey that well. If you're going to go ahead and develop information, you need to make it relevant for the location and the usage of the mobile device. We know that smartphones are becoming more and more powerful, but there are limitations. You don't want to put 10 pages of text out there. You want to put in information blocks as if it's an index card. You don't want to go ahead and load a lot of graphics in a mobile presentation. Instead, you want to scale back to one or two. So it helps people to learn, engage information in a relevant fashion, but there are physical limitations in the e-learning space for mobile communication. Let's start talking about a few of them. Connectivity and geography. You can be anywhere in the world, but the connectivity to gain access to that information can vary widely. I mean, for example, if you use an iPhone for learning, it's great if you're in the United States, but what happens if you're overseas? Blackberries are actually more prevalent and used overseas than an iPhone. So if you scale and optimize the learning experience for a single device, then you have a problem. Screen size and key size. You should not expect the user to go ahead and do a lot of input. You also should not require the user to do a lot of reading. These are two of the biggest physical limitations, and these are usability problems. If you want to go ahead and read a large paper about usability in mobile education, by all means email me. I'll send you a lot of documentation, but it's not appropriate for this lecture. Now, for information to be chunked, every device has a different experience. You really want to keep it to 1 paragraph, 2 paragraphs, and make it as clear as possible. You don't want to have to go on and on and on. And if you're going to present information in a multimedia format, a video-based format, you want to make sure it is accessible for a generic player. For example, every device can access YouTube. You can display video on YouTube. That's why I'm presenting my lectures in YouTube versus a Vimeo, or Windows Media File format, or QuickTime, or Real Player Time. YouTube is considered like a universal platform, and it's mobile enabled. Finally, you want to repurpose existing e-learning information. You don't want there to be a disparity in the delivery of information between the mobile device and the classroom. You want to make the experience as linear as possible, and you want the learning platform to be quite parallel. You don't want for someone to go ahead and go onto their online learning experience on their computer and say, where's this information? How is it, obtained? Try to keep the information as succinct as possible, as well as similar, if you possibly can. Now, what are the challenges for mobile learning? Well, number one is being cost prohibitive. A lot of schools are starting to introduce laptops on mobile carts, but schools don't have enough money to build infrastructures for mobile learning. Students have cell phones, but schools don't have the ability, or even the ability, to build applications or websites for mobile devices. Well, a lot of capabilities are becoming modular in nature. So, for example, if you were to build a WordPress blog, there are now plugins that enable you to web enable for a mobile device. I can't tell you how many mobile blogs I've built that I've mobile enabled by just putting a plugin in. Even Fortune 500 sites, they don't go ahead and build mobile sites. They use plugins and do something called transcoding. We don't have to get into transcoding, but it is something to think about. If you want your students to have access anywhere in the world to information, using a blog that has a mobile component as an add-on that just web enables it is the best approach. Understanding and assuming learning outside of the classroom can be done in the same format. Like I said, succinct, quick learning lectures. Some of the lectures you've seen today are 10, 12, 14 minutes. Some of them are 3 minutes. Short, sweet, and gets to the point, but it keeps the user captivated, because on a mobile device, the user is going to be more prone to play with things, so you need to keep the topic relevant and keep the conversation going, but not go too far. And finally, support. Every device is configured differently. You can't expect support to be unilateral, whereas on an online platform, it's pretty much consistent because the device is personalized. So a person who has an iPad, in Denver, Colorado may not have the same configuration in Irvine, Texas. That's an example of, one of the problems that I'm seeing in a lot of the online learning communities for the paid-for colleges, like University of Phoenix. University of Phoenix has great online tools. However, if a student is in two different locations and they're using the same device, the content may not appear the same way. Therefore, making sure the appearance of the content, the delivery of the content, and the consistency of the content is exact is fundamental. So, that's really where we have, a conversation with mobile. I can recommend a lot of websites, but overall, be cognizant that mobile devices are being used by students, and that students are going to want real-time learning anywhere they can possibly get it. But there are limitations, and the students should not rely on it because it really is a short-form learning tool that is good for task-oriented learning, but not research and analytical-based oriented learning. It's great to find information, but not to complete a transaction. So those are the pros and cons. I hope you learned a little about mobile learning. We're now going to move on to the next section about some more e-tools and web tools that you can use in your classroom.